Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are here live, and today we're talking about CrowdSec. And you might want to ask, what kind of a monkey business is this? And it's one of those things where I say, well, it's not monkey business, it's alpaca business. And we're talking about security, and security is a topic best discussed with friends. So we have a stage set up in the CrowdSec Discord, which is where I will take you now, and we will have a look what's happening right there. I brought the experts here, and
open.
There we go.
Listening to the fingers as soon as
there we go. We
Ray
are
comes off
currently
the mute. You'll
live.
just hear her.
Okay, there we are currently live, and I'd like to introduce you to Klaus and Lawrence.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Okay, let's start with myself. I'm a security enthusiast, system administrator, and live streamer. And we just decided it's time for Crowd is Coming. By the way, Klaus, could you mute the stream, please? Thank you.
Do you not have any headphones, Klaus?
Let's.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, time to introduce you. Lawrence, can you tell me or tell the audience a bit about yourself?
Oh no, she spelled my name wrong.
Did
It's
I?
okay. Happens all the time.
Okay, what did I do wrong?
All right.
Let's do it that way. So, tell me about yourself.
Or who?
Lawrence, please tell me about yourself. We'll start with you.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'm currently a junior software engineer, but I will be transitioning into support at CrowdSec in about 2-3 weeks' time.
Okay. And Klaus.
Yeah, I'm head of community at CrowdSec, and yeah, I've been doing that for about a year, and I'm pretty active on the Discord and anywhere else in our community. So that's cool. Yeah.
Well, to
Yeah,
add to the list, you always do the really nice presentations, and you always send those nice T-shirts and stickers. So I can't complain. By the way,
exactly.
I'm an ambassador, just for everyone who's asking what I'm doing with CrowdSec. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm just finding out what to how to exactly make this work. It's a little bit confusing with, the stream somewhere delayed a little bit, but I think we'll manage.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What we are doing is basically we communicate over the Discord. Just ignore the stream. It's all fine and dandy. CrowdSec. Let's start with a bit of what we are doing in general. I mean, the system administrator's life in a nutshell is I'd like to take a Wikipedia entry about tragedy. Tragedy is a form of drama based on human suffering that invokes an accompanying catharsis or pleasure in audiences. Thank you, Hugo Das, for the follow, by the way. And with a tragedy, I'm talking about some very special things like log files. I mean, you have seen them. They happen all the time. People are trying to break into our servers, and that stuff looks familiar, right? Lawrence?
All the time, even when just spinning up a new server.
Yeah, I've noticed. I just set up a server, and it didn't take long, about 20-ish seconds, until my SSH got hammered, and I was already fed up. Klaus, you already know that problem, right?
Me? Sorry.
Yeah, you know the problem about the log files. It's all that background noise. It's so freaking annoying.
Yeah, true. I mean, exactly. But there's a lot of problems with that. One of them is, of course, that you know that you're saving log files that you don't need, and that's one thing. But you also have a lot of stuff going on that you don't need. So in many ways, yeah, there's a lot of optimization to do in terms of filtering off all the stuff that you don't need in log anyway. So that does fills up. That's
my biggest problem is also you're looking for the needle in a haystack if things are going wrong, and I just want to scroll through the syslog without having all the SSH log files and stuff like that. It's just plain annoying, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because basically you just need to look at the log entries that matters. Mm-hmm. All the others are just, you know, and it will take your focus away from what really matters.
Yeah, and VRL. Thank you, Robert, for coming. Cool that you're here. Wow, I'm so happy having people joining us here, and we've got a hydrate, please. So this means social drinking for us, I guess.
Definitely.
They really do care, and you know, the common solution in the IT world is, you know, throw money at it, and security is not anything that you can really do with a big budget. I mean, look at the companies we've put up here. We've got Equifax, we've got Zoom here, SolarWinds, we've got Microsoft, EasyJet, MGM, Facebook, Twitter, or should we say Elon's Twitter by now? I'm not sure about that one. We've got Capital One, we've got JP Morgan and stuff like that. And what the hell do they do in terms of money? They have the same problem, except on a bigger scale.
Yeah. JP Morgan is an interesting example because they're using like $1 billion a year on cybersecurity, and still they get hacked like everyone else. So in my mind, that is a very good example of the problem, right?
There is one thing that I want to point out. There is a difference between a hacked website, which is basically somebody tore down a poster that they put up on a billboard, and a real data breach. Just keep that in mind. And we are not talking about just a defaced website. We're really talking about the itty-gritty bits here. So we just need to make a difference here, that we aren't really going for the small stuff here. We're really talking about the big players, because if there's a breach at Facebook happening, it is their website which is breached, but there is your data sitting there. It's like, you know, everything on the silver tablet.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we look at the world map at the cyber threats, we've got SaaS systems. Basically, just a second, we got a comment from the audience that I need to put in here. Basically, systems as a service, not only, Robert. My point is really, it happens to everything. If you are just really using an online shop here, if you're hosting a social network, whatever it is a freaking service that is reachable. And, you know, system as a service, serverless computing, that's, to me, it feels like the burger is vegan because you didn't see how they chop down the cow and work with the meat. Just my... I mean, if we look at the threats, there are really the top 10 countries. We've got those stats are kind of old-ish right now, but we've got around, you know, 400k bad IPs in the United States, around 300 and about the same in China, about half of that in Germany, Ukraine, Taiwan, and everyone. Even in Russia there are bad people, I mean, everywhere. And there are networks where there are, you know, everywhere they are hammering us and you don't even notice. This is just to give you an idea where they come from. It's a global problem, and where do they really come from? This is something I want to give the word to Lawrence.
Yeah, because I was going to say about that. Obviously, VPNs are out there. Everyone knows that you can easily mask your IP address. So even if the threat actor is coming from United States, as you said, it could be that there is more of a bigger, like, cloud service providers in America that is being abused by attackers to send their proxy that request through or anything like that.
Not only that, you also have breached servers that are basically hacked. Klaus can tell us more about that.
Yeah, exactly, and that was my point. I think a bigger problem in this sense, or more interest in this list, are actually coming from hacked servers, because we know that, and we can see it in our data that hackers tend to change IPs very often, because they are using those hacked servers as a layer of anonymity. Because obviously they don't want the world to know who they are, so they hack new servers all the time, and we see that there is around 12 or 13% of the entire IP space the IP numbers that we collect that are less than a week old. So in that sense, servers are being hacked because the hackers want anonymity, and they do that all the time, and we see that a lot.
And it's not always that easy that it's a server, just a server. It could be your game server. I once did a talk on the Linux Day, and I talked about why you do not want a root server. Because, it's cool to have a root server. Yay, let's just do it and run it with Plesk, the default thing, and we make a mistake there, and that was the yay.
Yeah.
And it's already doing some dirty work for somebody else. And we had a solution to that back then to protect our SSH daemon, basically, which was Fail to Ban. Fail to Ban, as you might see, is a bit dated. The initial release was in the year 2004 in October. So that thing is done, let's say, 17-ish years ago. It's still pretty, it's still maintained, but I have a problem with that, Fail to Ban is a piece of software that doesn't scale too well, and the most horrible thing about it, in my opinion, is regular expressions. I'm gonna move the presentation a bit, so we are not hiding it. We're not hiding it between you, so that should work. Does that work?
But yeah, I agree with the regular expression thing, because when I was first getting out into hosting servers a couple of years ago, and the first thing you would do is hear about fail to ban, and then you would just go on Stack Overflow or any other website, and you'll just be copy pasting expressions, thinking, will this work, and if you don't obviously understand it, you just throwing yourself for a brick wall until you finally get it to work, and then turns out that you've got 2 or 3 statements that are doing the exact same thing.
Lordy, have fun with the dogs, take them for a walk, get them some fresh air, and get yourself some fresh air too. And Fail to Ban was what I really notice about the Stack Overflow. Security by Stack Overflow, that's really something that I don't agree with, because, first of all, regular expressions, we know they look like comic book cursing with the regular expressions, and they aren't really made for human beings, if you ask me. And they can be quite complicated, so the next answer, in this case, would be what we use at CrowdSec, and this is Grok. And it's so freaking easier than regex. And CrowdSec is kind of new. Klaus, when did CrowdSec start? Do you have an idea about that?
Yeah, it started around 2 years ago. I've been in the company for a little bit over a year, and I wasn't in from the beginning, but
let's say slightly newer. That's
yeah. exactly. Slightly newer than 17 years, and there's a lot of history in fail to ban, and obviously CrowdSec is built with not fail to ban in mind, but the founders has a lot of experience with fail to ban and used it for many years, and also it's a great tool and all that, but there was some shortcomings. And of course regular expressive is one of them, but functionality wise it's more the sense that the sharing part drove them to build CrowdSec, that they really felt that there was a capacity or some things that weren't used by basically in fail to ban, where people are not, it's not meant to work together, right? It's just meant to be on its own, and if everybody does that, it certainly makes sense that there are some unused potential there, and that is what sort of started the whole thing.
To me, my point was when I worked with, I'm also doing my programs, so I used to say to people, don't annoy me or I'll just replace you with a bash script. And I wrote my own plugins for WordPress because I had an idea of fighting spam, just WordPress comment spam. And my first problem was really, I was running a couple of WordPress websites, and how the heck do I get that stuff synchronized? And this was also one of the main things that really bugs me. If I can't share this stuff, because do I really need to block it on every server? I have a firewall sitting right at my border. So why do I need to get their traffic into my network where it triggers snort, staccato, or how you want to call it, and stuff like that? And it's really the parser and the bouncer, they are two separated things. So I can really run it wherever I need what I need. So, I mean, CrowdSec isn't really just a new version of fail to ban. That's we are a framework. From my point of view, my biggest problem is that we are having guys out there like Cloudflare, Fastly, and stuff like that, and they also need, they need help. How does Cloudflare really detect your attackers? You have to feed them lists sometimes. Then we've got the bots, we've got scalping bots, scraping bots, they access stuff they shouldn't. Like, is there a WordPress config file I can read? That enables me to lurk around here, lurk around there, and stuff like that. Credit card stuffing, okay, that's one thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and the solution to that was at first country blocking. If you don't do business in that country, but that's a red flag to me. Lawrence, can you guess the culprit with that?
You can miss out on customers if they come from those countries. So you don't want to lose business. That's obviously not the best thing to do.
I think Klaus disagrees with that, right?
Oh.
I do see the point with not losing customers, but it's also if you have users that is traveling around the world, right? You in that sense you'd just blocking countries. That's in many cases that's not the solution in a global world where people are moving around all the time.
I have to put that up. Proxies and VPNs bypass geofencing and also hacked servers. So we are nearly at, with geo-blocking, we are solving a problem that we basically don't have. We're making it worse for the customer. But in the end, it's really, if there was a way that I could just block the bad IPs from that country, wouldn't that be so much easier? Oh, wait a minute. We have that. I mean, let's have a look. We've tried outpowering, outsmarting. And those approaches really, they suck because they failed. And now we are trying behavior and pattern-based block. Yeah, exactly. That's what we are doing. outnumbering is now our weapon of choice. And this is a slide especially for Klaus here.
Yeah, exactly, because we are. So what CrowdSec is aiming to do is basically building the ways of cybersecurity, right? And if you don't know what Waze is basically it's a GPS app where everybody using the app are helping each other out by talking about where road is blocked and where there is something wrong with the road and where there's traffic congestion and all that stuff. And basically, CrowdSec is trying to do the same by sharing information about what's going on in your log, who's attacking you, and then sharing that with everyone else. That's basically CrowdSec in a nutshell. Building the ways of cybersecurity. That's one of our slogans, I guess.
And just to show you some numbers to back that up, we have a slide for that. And if you look at the reputation and stuff like that, if you have an IP here, you have a lot of stuff blocked in the end, but it's not just you, we have your back. That's what we are saying. So we have their reputation, and we know that IP did bad things to everyone else. So it is most likely knocking on your server as well, and we just stop it there. And I think it's time to talk about the internals a bit more. What do we do? Lawrence, show is yours.
So if I can see correctly, because I've turned your stream quality down to nothing to hopefully save my precious Wi-Fi bandwidth. So I can see that we're on the IPS part.
Yes.
Yep. So CrowdSec can be set up to read multiple data sources, but the main point of it is to read in logs. And for obviously to read in logs, you can't just read each line and be magical and have any idea what that information means. So we have to set up parsers to be able to parse the information out of the log lines and turn it into something that's tangible that you can use. So that's the first bit, and the key thing that we kind of need is adoption, and obviously a lot of parsers for applications that people are using. So we've got quite a few in the CrowdSec hub at the moment, but obviously adoption's key, so we need more of those for all the applications that are out there.
So what you're saying is, by reading the log files, we detect patterns in it. It's like really a wanted poster. So we don't have the CIA most wanted criminals. We have the CrowdSec most wanted criminals here. And we detect patterns in the log files. That also is basically our weak point. We can't detect anything that's not in the log files. And what we do is really we share those IPs. And the idea is really we can put pressure on ISPs to clean up their networks. Because if they are basically offline by anyone else, it is something they really should care about. Because think about it, if you are offline, you can't go to a website, you can't go to your local web store, you can't go to your local library. It just doesn't work. And the point is, what do we deal with? I mean, if you look at it, we've got web scans, port scans, and all that stuff. And this is what scenarios are for. And we also detect credit card stuffing, VoIP app use, and really DDoSing applications, and stuff like that, targeted attacks. It is really, really huge. Think about it like this. You have a web server log and somebody is trying to get to your .dot files or to your .env files to get some information out of you. And CrowdSec sees that and says, wait a minute, this IP, and we're talking to the rest. So this is where the data protection laws are coming in. And this is the itty bitty gritties, the stuff that's most hated by us system administrator, and this is data protection, because we work with data. And we still try to minimize what we really take from you. So what we take is a timestamp, the offending IP, and basically what they did, what the charges are, right? So this is basically the minimum thing. We don't allow you to really identify stuff with CrowdSec. We just block them, and we don't give away more information that we need. It's like, imagine your phone could do geofencing by giving away your position in a home automatization setup, or you could just check on your router if it's logged in your Wi-Fi network or not. This is basically two things doing the same thing, but just using less data, and we're using the less data-intensive approach. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's interesting the way CrowdSec is handling this and the data CrowdSec is using, because usually people, some of the more critical questions about CrowdSec has been around what do we do with our data, and how do we collect data, and who do we send our logs, because we have this assumption that whenever something is free, which CrowdSec is, then yourself is the product. That is the old joke, right? That the pig in the stable are really happy with all the food he gets. It doesn't know that it's going to die soon, and that's why it's getting the stuff free. And that is not basically not the way about CrowdSec. That CrowdSec, we don't really care about you, about the users in that sense. We care about who is attacking you and their IPs and their personal data, or whatever you would call it. Not that it's that personal, but yes, it is data that is somehow protected, at least under GDPR. And when we say we're GDPR compliant, that basically means that we have procedures for deleting data in our databases if somebody authenticates towards us and say that they want their IPs removed. We have processes to do that. We have yet for that to happen, because obviously the criminals don't want to identify themselves and and getting their IPs removed. But yeah, that is part of the GDPR, and obviously we have processes for that. But yeah, just in case, because usually when you're using a website, you're opting in on cookies and opting in on data collection, and obviously bad guys can't do that.
I would love to see somebody walking up to me and say, please remove my IP address, while on the other hand just calling the police to get that person arrested. But the free forever is really not the product isn't you. The product is really, we are an open source project here, which means you can fork us on GitHub. It's the MIT license. In other words, it is free forever. It is completely transparent. Read the code. Use the source loop. That joke is really not just on a sticker of us. It is really, it is a thing.
Yeah, and also in terms of license-wise, the reason why we chose MIT is that once the code is open, it cannot be closed, and that is by design. We don't want to end up in a situation where somebody with a lot of money has purchased CrowdSec and sort of screws with the community by changing the license and closing the source and whatever. Because if that happens, then
that would be devastating.
Yeah, exactly. And if that would happen, I mean, it doesn't really matter, because the code would just be forked, and yeah, then you're out of luck.
Basically, we would just say fork off.
Exactly.
Anyways, what we have here is now, we have a bunch of IPs now from the parser that is sent to the server. And we just put it in a database, collect it, sort it like stamps. No, this is something bigger. And this one is for Klaus.
Yeah, exactly. Because the way it works is that CrowdSec collects signals from all agents around the world, and those are put into what we call the smoke database, because as the headline says, there is no smoke without a fire. So we know something is going on with these IPs. They are being worked with, or they are being passed with the consensus engine that we have. And one of the questions that I usually get, or when I'm out talking about CrowdSec, is how do we deal with poisoning and false positives? Because the way the block list is being distributed with other agents, it is very imperative that there's nothing wrong with that block list, basically. And one way we try to deal with that is using a trust rank system with all agents, basically meaning that whenever a new agent joins the CrowdSec network, they have a trust rank of 0. And then over time that trust rank will grow, and if you send completely reliable signals for like 6 months or so, then you will end up with the maximum trust rank of 99. And basically that trust rank is being used whenever an IP is assessed, and we are trying to figure out whether this is bad or not, depending on who reports it, who knows this IP. So basically, an IP needs a certain amount of points based on that trust rank in order to be deemed malevolent, and that means that in order for a bad person or a bad guy or whatever to try to poison the network, first of all, it takes a long time to build that trust rank, and secondly, in the voting process, one ASN only has one vote, meaning that that not only would you need a lot of time to have this high trust rank, you would also need VPSs or servers on a number of different ASNs in order to be able to affect this whole voting process.
On top, may I?
Sure, go ahead.
On top of that, there are also the ultimate trusted honeypots, and think about it like this. We operate honeypots, and this is where we have something like, you won't install Microsoft Office using malware, basically kind of that attempt. And the honeypots that we run, they are ultimately trusted. And then there are also some whitelists for, I think, security researchers. And this stuff...
No. Whitelists are for because there are certain IPs that we don't want to block, like Google DNS numbers and stuff like that, and Cloudflare CDNs and a number of other IPs that in any circumstance you don't want to block those. So they are the whitelist.
I have a question from Helmchen, from Lord Helmet again. I'll put it on screen for you guys. What about a bot army with lots of IPs? Could that fool the system to make a bad IP into a good one? The problem is you don't convert bad IPs into good ones. It's the other way around, Lord Helmchen. So...
I think the question may have been that if you had, like, let's say, one agent and then you were pointing all your bad bots to go attack that one system to try and get the trust rank higher, but it's not about how much you report, it's about being the time on the network as well as that.
Exactly, and this is what turns that stuff into a different scenario at all. So it's hard to fool it because of the time with botnets. You don't have that long-term running botnet that runs like 6 months on the same host to get that trust level up, because you need at least 6 months, right, Klaus?
Yeah, it's about 6 months that is the shortest time that will get you the maximum trust rank.
By the way, dear audience here, dear listeners, dear viewers, we have, or just dear chat, I just posted a link to our stage Discord at the CrowdSec Discord, where you can join in and ask questions. We can have guests here, and you are then live on stream, just as live as Lawrence's cat.
Sorry, she's being needy.
Don't worry, take her. I mean, you could pose as the evil programmer caressing the cat. No problem with that.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll put her on my lap then.
You know, we love cats, and, you know, it's kind of like... So having a colleague there is always nice.
Yep.
So we've covered that there is, you know, a fire database, which is what we send out. And the smoke database, that's where the reports come in. So there is a lot of stuff. There's the next meow. Love it. We run nearly everywhere. So you get packages for Linux distributions like Debian. I've seen packages for Arch, BSD, even Windows packages. And there's even stuff with a Helm chart, Docker, and stuff like that. So it runs nearly everywhere. I think you would be having problems with a Raspberry Pico, because that's just Python. But I guess there are still some creative guys figuring out something like that as well.
Yeah,
and if not...
And CrowdSec also runs on OpenWRT and Synology as well, just to add that in.
WRT, so that's the router operating system, where your trusty... or not so trusty Wi-Fi router can be flashed. I think it was the D-Link devices that were commonly abused with that. Anyway, that's huge.
Original back in the day, it was just a D-Link, but obviously it's everywhere now.
And there is one big thing, and this is OpenSense. So you can really let that thing run at the border of your network, which includes that's about the hardened BSD package. And there is something I'm always poking those two guys. I want a pfSense package, please. Please, can you resist those guys?
Well, unfortunately, we're not the ones that you should affect or convince to doing that. I talked to our CTO Thibaut about it this week, because we've been talking about it a lot. But it's still on the board for now. The best thing is to do is to use the mirror bouncer that basically makes you. Export all IPs as a list that you can download in your firewall, in your unsupported firewall, whatever that is.
And I can show that.
But obviously that's not the best solution. But it works. But for now that's exactly, it works. But for now that's what is available, and over time there may be a native package for pfSense that's still not decided.
pfSense is what I just put here on the screen. And I have a firewall rule here that works with an alias, and that alias is my trusty old URL block list that I'm running my stuff off. And if I look at the CrowdSec blacklist, there are currently 14,880 records on it with bad IPs. So just to give you an idea of the scale of the operation here, that is 14k hosts that aren't annoying me anymore. This is something very important. By the way, the data sources that we run off is, you see, files, journald, syslog daemons. You could use a CloudTrail. You could use the AWS Kinesis Stream Docker logs, Windows event logs, because that's all we get there. So basically, we grab what we can get, and we aren't really picky about that.
No, and we also have Kafka as a data source on its way. I saw a
nice.
PR on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say about Kafka.
Lawrence, are you a picky eater, or are you just like CrowdSec?
No, I'm definitely not a picky eater. If you look at the size of me, no, I'm definitely not. Eat what I can when I can.
Mouse?
Well, not me either. But yeah, I'm working on that. But that's for another for another webcast, I think.
Same. I'm trying to lose some weight.
On the other hand, CrowdSec gains weight by just adding more and more data sources, and we're freaking proud of that. We work hard for that.
Yeah.
And if you look at this, we are really even bouncing on the bigger level, which means you can feed the IP less to a provider like Fastly, AWS, whatever. You can say, no, those don't, Then IP tables, NF tables, PF, or the Windows firewall at your service. We have the list. And as far as I know, we're working on BGP blocking, so we can take. And that's the big thing. The big guys.
Yeah, it is.
The big guys down. And
we are trying to get CrowdSec IPs into this system that basically distributes its BDP block list or block list on BDP level. Because that very much talks into what CrowdSec wants to do. We want to kill off the bad guys by the root as close to the source as possible. And if we're able to block them on BDP level, then that BDP is a protocol that is used to route between ISPs and stuff like that. So we're really down at the core of the internet, and if we can cut them off there, that would be very cool. Imagine having an even bigger worldwide CrowdSec network that we have now of agents. So whenever a new campaign is out by the bad guys that are being cut off by the root within seconds, that would be the ultimate dream for us.
It is still a dream, but you don't have to dream. I mean, looking at let's say you've got a root server at Hetzner or at 1&1 or wherever you have that one, you usually can't tinker with the firewall on the network level. So you can, on the other hand, tinker with a proxy. You can tinker with the IP tables there. So you have the Nginx, you've got traffic, high availability proxies, Caddy, and stuff like that. So even if you don't have the absolutely freaking full control of the host, you can still do something. And there is even with the application layer, WAF is a web application firewall. Yes, that is correct. And the point is, you can integrate it all in PHP. We have a WordPress plugin that allows you to take some of the finer grained controls. I mean, think about it. You don't have to, if you really feel bad about them, you don't really have to block them from your website. You just put a captcha there and make it harder for them. I have to admit, I'm more or less a hardliner. I shoot before I ask in terms of blocking, and it really helped me a lot. And basically with a captcha, I tried a bit around, and I actually never ever had somebody solving the captcha in the last 2 months of runtime. So I tried. I mean, we are experimenting here. Klaus is experimenting. Lawrence is experimenting. What are your takes on blocking on the firewall or on the application level? What's your take?
Klaus, you want to go first or me?
yeah, you go first.
Okay. So for me, I would just rather kill it at the place where my server doesn't need to do the processing. So mostly I use Cloudflare. Not just because they were just the one that I just picked at the start to do my DNS stuff. So I'd rather have the edge deal with most of the HTTP stuff, and then if just so happens they seem to get through Cloudflare's managed challenge, then obviously we can deal with it with a capture in the Nginx side. That's what I do. However, but my current solve rate on Cloudflare is 0%, so they've all been bots, basically. None of them have actually managed to solve the capture. So I'm pretty happy with where it is at the moment.
That is pretty decent. That's a goal for CrowdSec. We scored a goal.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Klaus.
Yeah, but I just want to say that in terms of resources, like it would make sense to block whatever you can on the firewall level, because that takes like only a fraction of resources compared to what it costs for CPU wise to have capture running up. I mean, if you scale it, and you have a big website or a big site with a lot of attacks, then it's most cost effective to block them at the firewall level, of course.
I did that, and I have something here for you. This is my my Proxmox host, which is my one-stop hosting shop for all my home lab needs. In other words, I can run containers, I can run virtual machines, and I run my website on it. I run multiple websites, I run my mail server on it, and pretty much everything a girl needs. And I also run a Gentoo, so spikes where I really use the system aren't really, it's not that hard. And I think we have somebody in the audience named Robert, who also might have an interesting tale to tell. Wanna join in and give us your experience on blocking? Anyways, let me just shortly explain the chart here. This is where I started to introduce CrowdSec on my firewall, and you could see the drop. This is a drop. Let me just look at the numbers. 30% is around here, which was my base load, and then it dropped down to merely 20% load. So this is huge, and that's just me compiling a kernel for Debian. So this is really huge, and I also had a huge impact on traffic there.
Yeah, I want to say that I put Robert on stage if he wants to share that forward with scalability and capture and stuff.
Welcome, Robert.
Yeah, he's muted. Maybe oh, no, not anymore.
Don't
Welcome,
be scared.
Robert.
Welcome.
Yeah, I kind of utilizes CrowdSec on a fairly okay level, I guess. It's in Azure, so it's already in cloud. And most of the stuff is infrastructure as code, so most of it is automated. And by doing it this way, you kind of eliminate the manual work, but at the same time, you also block the manual intervening of it. So you're heavily dependent on APIs. So I've kind of gotten a love-hate relationship to the JSON because of that.
Let me ask you one thing. We're talking about application blocking or really border defense blocking, and to me and to us all, it's mostly, just borderline defense, first line of defense. That's where we see CrowdSec, if we can. What's your take?
It can also. It doesn't need to be the front gate. You can put it at the edge. That's fine. But you can also have CrowdSec on the initial layers inside as well. It depends on how your infrastructure is looking inside on the local network. I have also set up CrowdSec running on WireGuard, so I have that running. But it's kind of wonky right now. I wouldn't say it's production ready, so it's still test, because there's some problem with the API not really doing what I want it to do, because it doesn't understand that it's in a local network. It tries to reach out to the public net, and there's some stuff there that I have to figure out. But the whole thing is that CrowdSec, on the local thing, is that CrowdSec does something with the local things, so it's kind of hard to differentiate, and I'm working on getting the external IP to follow all the way through. For the people that does networking, they know how to do that.
Yeah,
I don't know how to do that yet, so that's why.
Hit me up and we'll figure it out.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, I can see utilization of CrowdSec in multiple like use cases, and especially in cloud, really, because I mean, you have like services for Azure in Microsoft, which is called the Azure Web Application Firewall, but it's so darn expensive, right? So it's easier to just set up a load balancer as a $5 virtual machine or something, and then just pipe traffic through there.
I also see a lot of things going on with energy friendliness and stuff like that. I mean, if you look at this chart, what I'm saving, it also saves traffic. So your line isn't that clogged anymore because that request is just bounced and stuff like that. So it takes a lot of load off. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah. I'm actually about to head off to a big drive, so you gotta catch me in the last minute. So yeah, I'm happy I could like share my point of view and how to use CrowdSec, and
thank you.
Just join the Discord and we can have like a great talk about like use cases.
Yeah, that's cool. And if there is anyone else out there who wants to join us, I'll post the link to the Discord, to the stage as well. So feel free to join us and tell us your story. I mean, we are a bit on this end here. Do you know what this is? Has anybody an idea in the audience what this is? No? Okay, Robert knows. Cheeky boy. Let me explain. This was some research done in the Second World War, and the red dots here are where bullet damage on planes was recorded. So the problem with that is everything that was recorded was on planes that returned. In other words, you didn't see why a plane didn't make it. Think about it like this. If you have a hit in the cockpit area, then your pilot might be dead, and it is hard for a plane to return by himself at that early development stage of flight that we had in the Second World War. So those machines that didn't return, they did not really... those were background noise, basically. That was background noise, but not actual what took the planes down. So CrowdSec, if they would have used CrowdSec, they would just have gotten rid of all the red dots here and said, oh, we need to look at it again because the actual hits were somewhere like in the motor, and that's where they had to put armor in the end. But keep in mind, CrowdSec is absolutely not a web application firewall. This is really something I want to stress. It is not a web application firewall protecting your stuff.
Yeah, the key point to that is that it's we're more reactive than responsive.
Proactive, yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, we're not proactive, so if a request is coming through the chain, we can't stop the request. We only obviously react to the logs after.
We had the request already going through, so yeah. But there is something I want to remind you, and this was Log4j. Log4j was one of those exploits recently discovered in a Java library. The job of Log4j was basically just get the message and write it to a log file, right? Just oversimplified. And where is Log4j? We have a iPhone here, as far as I can see. That was an iPhone 12. And even there was some Log4j. It is in your Android phone, it is in your camera, it is in your... Yeah, I wouldn't really say underwear, but pretty close to that. Java is everywhere, and so is Log4j. And if you say, yeah, just the Apple users, no, it's even on Android. And boy, that escalated quickly. Really.
Very.
Think about it like this. We had we had it discovered around the 9th of December. And Klaus, I think you reacted quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Because what we're seeing here is a timeline of what happened around that time. Because on December 9th, when Apache released details on the vulnerability, already the next day CrowdSec released our first version of the Log4j scenario. And then as attacks evolved, I mean, the first attacks were just the raw JNDI string with payload and all that stuff, but over time, as everybody was able to detect that, the attackers found a way to obfuscate that and change it and typing it encoding into base 64 and what do I know, and then over time, of course, CrowdSec had to evolve with that. So we ended up ended up with a few iterations, and I think the last update we did was on December 20th when there was an update actually by a community member, so that CrowdSec was also able to detect the Unicode encoding of the JNDI
around the 20th, and people, look at the timeline. This was just 10 days, 11 days.
Yeah.
And we have that graphed out for you as well, thanks to Klaus. And if you look at this slide here, we have the December of the 10th here, and we started at the a few days later at the 11th to get the first records, and it really spikes here, and people are really hammering Log4j. That was a spike that was amazing. Lawrence, did you notice something about that?
Yeah, so I think that was when we started getting obviously the iterations through, because even though I don't run any Java systems on my server, I was still getting hit with JNDI strings everywhere, and I saw the lower stuff and the obviously I can't say the word, but yeah, the manipulation of the strings just to get it round. But me too. I run a Greylog syslog server where I pull everything together, and I was like, what the hell am I looking at? You know, those things where you just sit there, scratch your head, and you are like, what the heck? That's cat mobbing. They're mobbing me. Usually it's the other way around. I shoot back. But it was like, what the heck? Yeah. And by now, if we look at the 7-month history, boy, they abused the hell out of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. We see it around when it's around mid-May mid-May that the numbers are going down quite a bit. But until then, there was a lot of attack. We saw a lot of attacks those first 6 months there.
I think.
I think an interesting point to also point out when we're talking about Log4j and CrowdSec is that as you guys are saying, that you don't have to be vulnerable in order to collect any information about attacks. So basically, all those web servers that had CrowdSec installed and not vulnerable were just honeypots for Log4j, collecting data, not being vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think the reason why Log4j was so popular was just because of Minecraft. Because even Minecraft uses Log4j. So think about it. That is really about the everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And still to this day, there still is vulnerable Minecraft servers out there that are still not patched, because I saw a video.
Yeah. The point is, if you want to play an old mod pack or something like that, you have to roll with what you get, and this is hello Log4j.
Yeah.
This is awful. This is so awful.
Yeah.
And it saddens me. Even as, I mean, I loved the old Infinity Evolved mod pack based on Minecraft 1.7.10. I played the shit out of that mod pack. And I sat there for long shifts, basically, doing shenanigans in Minecraft, and that's where really Log4j hurts me. Think about it. It is still abused today. And you might think it is patched. Does your camera that runs Java or your video recorder, your DVD player, got patched? And my problem is also with phones. After 3 years, they are usually abandoned. So there are a lot of phones still vulnerable, and in general, devices where there is no chance of doing something. And there won't be. I mean, we can still SWAT a few attackers, but if somebody really wants to try, they get one shot. They get one shot. And that's usually enough for security. If we look at the cybercriminals and how effective blocking is, this is something you might be interested in. Cybercriminals are rotating their IP addresses, and that could be multiple reasons. And do you guys know any services where you can get a free virtual server, a free VPS or something, or something to run your code? Is there still a free service around?
I would make a joke about Heroku, but I'll leave that out.
I was just about AWS when they gave you free credits and stuff like that. And in my books, this is still a problem, just in terms of cyber security, because a cyber criminal could just fake an account, get his stuff running, run out of credits, and this is something. How aggressive are IPs? And we see a lot of stuff, aggressive all-timers that is just less than 3%. That's nothing. And after 1 week, most of the stuff dies down. And you can see that on the chart here, on the numbers on the table. It's 6% after 1 month, 4% only after 3 months, maybe more than 3 months, that you will see. In other words, cybercriminals are moving around very fast, and I think this free VPS stuff is also kind of contributing to that, so we might be a bit biased here. What do you think? So here's a good one for Klaus. What's that?
Oh yeah, exactly. That is what we call the block list journey. It's interesting in the sense that a lot of the IPs that we see on the block list have been around for some time, because as we could see on the previous slide, there are IPs that are new, but there are also IPs that are old and are basically staying around. So around 80% of the block list are more or less permanently in the block list. So that also tells us that there are some providers that care more than others, whether they are doing bad things, whether their IPs are doing bad things than others are.
Do you have an example from the top of your head?
So that is quite interesting.
Do you have an example right from the top of your head of a good provider or a bad provider?
Well, I don't know if you can call them good, but
in terms
one
of
of
cleanup.
the things that of course, that we're seeing with all the numbers that we're getting in and all the signals we're getting in is also how long time an IP tends to stay in the block list, and when we look at all those data and correlate them with all the ASNs that we know, then one of the providers that comes out in a good way there is AWS, because in general we see IPs from AWS that are doing bad things. They only do that for around 3 days. Then AWS managed to find them and cut them off. Whereas another cloud provider is OVH, and I'm not saying they're bad or anything, but our numbers simply tells us that on average, it's an IP are doing bad things at OVH for around 70 days, which is quite a lot more, obviously.
From my experience, a good provider I could recommend was Hetzner. And they are quickly with warning the customer, and you usually get a reaction. So if something bad happens to a server, you usually have 48 hours to clean up the mess, and then they take it offline or something like that. You get a pretty straight shot from them. So I think that's also reflected in the statistics. And this is something very interesting. And we just gathered a couple of hosters and how many hosts, how many IPs, how much traffic there is coming. And ChinaNet is one of those providers leading pretty boldly, I'd say. Also the Deutsche Telekom AG. So Germany doesn't do as well either. Amazon, wow. DigitalOcean, China again here, data communications, business groups and stuff like that. Vodafone, that's Germany usually. Amazon again in there. Okay, that is truly some interesting numbers. I mean, they vary from day to day, so those aren't the freshest numbers, but they are pretty consistent with also what I could observe. By the way, what is going on with other protocols? We talked about the web, we talked about SSH, but there is a bigger thing around, and this is SIP. What is SIP? Basically, it's the voice over IP protocol where the what's used to do the actual calls. And if we look at the number of signals per scenario there, that is huge. We've got a time span of around 3 months here, starting around April and going past July. So this is huge. That's hammered, and there are signals around 20k. I see them pretty often. It spikes out at 80k. So this is really huge, but it's not only SIP, it's also SSH, and this is a different caliber. SSH, we are at 400k, just to give you an idea. SSH is still one of the worst candidates here, and it shocks me. We do have the root account per default locked, and we've got everything blocked. It's like, only login using SSH keys and stuff like that, and still there are so many attacks coming that way. It is amazing. But not only that, I've observed a lot of attacks running against mail servers like SMTP for probably spam reasons. What's your experience with that, guys?
Well, I just wanted to say that what an important thing about our data is that they are biased in the sense that everybody. CrowdSec is mostly on Linux, and when you install CrowdSec on Linux, it orders takes SSH and whatever is running. So obviously there is a lot more signals from SSH because that's installed by default. Whereas if you look at more Windows things, that Windows protocols, we don't get many signals, but that's partly because we don't have many Windows agents yet. So yeah, that is one thing to take into consideration. But obviously, that is exactly as we talked about in the beginning. That is background noise, because obviously if you have just a decent level of security, it doesn't matter with SSH being brute force, because you don't have default passwords or whatever those IP or those bots are looking for. But obviously some has, and it doesn't cost very much to do that SSH brute forcing all the time. So why not try?
Remember the plain image, and just saying getting rid of the background noise, that is a huge thing. Just putting up that slide again to really illustrate that. Think about it, you don't have to process the access denied, because that's still work. Lawrence, are there any things you did observe?
Yeah, so I run a postfix and dovecot instance. Because I use PAM authentication, I get a lot of login attempts, and to be honest with you, I never really took into consideration that anyone was trying to log into it before I installed CrowdSec. And it was handy that we already had parsers and scenarios set up, so I just installed them, and then I got bans within minutes.
This is something interesting I want to point out right here. I have a CrowdSec account as well, and I wrote a scenario, and with a scenario I'm going here for carrier connect brute forcing, and this is basically my scenario that I developed, and I think it's safe to assume that I'm pretty much the only one who's running it. But there are a lot of attacks coming from Baltic, it's Lithuania, and the UK, and it's still being pretty hammered. So people try it. I mean, this is something where I was surprised as well, because I was like, are you guys nuts? And this is just parsing from the logs of my Carrier Connect instance that are already pre-filtered, basically.
I was going to say, all my dovecot bans were from Lithuania as well. So I don't know if that's an interesting point to point out.
It is something that is interesting, because it's basically the same guys hammering me those that are hammering you. We are sitting on the same ship called Internet, and we're all getting shelled by the same idiots. So this is something that's really important. And we are now going to give Lawrence the show, because he is talking about creating parsers and scenarios, because I already did a YouTube video about it. And if you're not sure where to get that, here's the link. There is my YouTube channel, and make sure to check it out. And fun fact, Lawrence, how did you get to know me? How did you get to know about CrowdSec? This was a fun fact you mentioned.
Yeah, so before I got the job at CrowdSec, obviously you got to do your homework on wherever you're applying, and I stumbled upon your video of creating parsers, and that's how I found out about your channel. And then once I then got the job, obviously then I joined the Discord, and then obviously we've just been talking since then. So yeah, it was quite an interesting way to get the information from YouTube.
Quite an interesting thing to ask here. Are there any questions from the audience so far? If you've got any questions, shoot them at us. And if you are in the Discord, in the stage channel, you can raise your hand, and we can invite you on stream so that you can ask your questions. Or if you are into Twitch, type the questions in your chat over there, and we are happy to answer them. And the stage is yours, Lawrence.
Yeah. So if you weren't here at the very start of obviously the conversation, we were talking about obviously the adoption process and having a parser, because we need to know what the lines are for. So I think what you're running through on the template stuff is basically getting just the log line out. So this on the stream, if you can see, is basically just a basic pattern to get the whole line out as a data object. Which obviously in hindsight that's not very useful just to get the whole log line out, but this is just for as an example. And so the way that you would start is you would start with the grok pattern by registering the grok, and then you would then go through each of the different patterns. So your single file can have multiple different ones, because with any application there can be error logs as well as just general access logs.
So what you're saying is this is basically the structure of a file where it tells you, here are the logs, read them, and if you find that pattern that we have here, ping me, basically, right?
Yes.
So we don't want to take the deep dive in here. This is just showing you on how easy it is, basically, and the beauty about it is grok.
Yeah, there's no double lines and gobbledygook in between the double lines to basically for regex. There's just human readable parser.
Yeah, and if you go to grokdebugherokuapp.com, this is basically an interactive grok playground where you can basically paste in your log file, your log lines, and then you can alter the data there and test against your pattern, and you get JSON if it's all good, and that's what we want to have. So this is one of the beauties, Lawrence. We've got the grok cheat sheet. Do you know what this is?
Yes. So this is the predefined grok patterns
Yes.
that you mostly get, and they're inside that debugger as well. Well, these are mostly the common ones that you would use. However, greedy data isn't that useful in the grand scheme of things. It's only if you just want to get like a block of text.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let me put it that way. You have an IP, and about the pattern, the beauty about it is you don't need to care about if it is IP4, if it's IP6. It is what it is.
Yeah.
That is really what I love about it.
Yeah, and you haven't got like the weird, like obviously bracket syntax for regex or anything like that. It's just a simple, because they're already predefined templates. They're quite easy to read.
And let's just go through a quick flowchart. You have it basically. You have an event that you get in the file. Let me enlarge that for you. And you have the filter, log type. If you've got a filter match, no, then carry on, and we are done. And then we just check what it is. And CrowdSec uses something that's called the Leaky bucket algorithm, and this is where it gets really interesting. Think about it like this: a leaky bucket is a bucket with a lake, and you add water. So what will happen is that the bucket will slowly drain the water, and if you add more water and more water, if you add more than what leaks, you get an overflow. And this is basically when we act, when we have an alert. So we don't punish you for a simple SSH login that has gone bad, but we will punish you for the, let's say, 5th or 10th one, or even 100th one that we see from the logs. It's not that we are just bad. We know you can mistype your password. If it happens a couple of times, it's okay, but cybercriminals are not just mistyping a password. So that's what I have for you today. And I want to say thank you to Klaus. Klaus, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah. It was a pleasure to have you here. It was a pleasure to be around. It was a great experience.
And Lawrence.
Yeah, cheers for having us on. I know I do speak a lot and expand on points, so I need to get used to obviously making it concise.
It is not that bad. I mean, it was a first timer, and I think we had a jolly good time. And
exactly.
Count me in on doing that again because it was great fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will.
Alrighty. So, this was it from my part, and I want to thank you for being here, for watching. And as always, I want to say thank you to my Patreons and to the new followers. My Patreon is Daisy here, and yeah, he's doing great. And thanks for the follow, Hugo Doss, and everyone who was here and who discovered that there is also security content on Twitch. Okay, this is Ray signing off for today. Good night.